Hello and welcome to another Industry Live Tuesday/Wednesday. We had a little technical difficulties, but we're here today. And I'm that Kimberly, and this is co-host. Am I pointing in the right direction? Yes,
Hi, everyone. I'm so
Lissy.
excited to be back.
Yeah, Lissy Daniels here to co-host with me, and we're going to be talking about life's hurdles and bouncing back. But before we do that, I want to make sure everybody knows that where we're going live and what we're doing. If you have any questions, we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and the X, Twitter, aka Twitter. So if you are watching wherever you're watching us from and you have a question, just leave it in the tag one of us to make. If you watch it on the replay, make sure you put hashtag replay in the city you watched us from. If you want to be a guest on the show, just email me, Kimberly@marketing.com, and we'll get you set up for a date on the show. And if you here's a link for some other resources and other ways to connect me in the future. And here's how to connect with Lissy as well. We'll throw that up at the end of the show. But let's jump in to this conversation about bouncing back.
Bouncing
So
back.
Lissy, tell me, was there a time in your that you might have been, laid off or, downsized or whatever it is? And what'd you do?
Yeah. There was a time in my career and not too long ago, I'll honestly be more transparent last year, some time frame where, I was laid off within our company because they were bought out. But yeah,
And that
so
happens.
with,
And that happens all the
yeah.
time, people in multifamily.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It does. It does. And I don't think it's ever easy. I don't think there's ever the right emotion or what you go through or how you feel during those times when it happens to you, or you're never prepared, right? And
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, that was one of the biggest things that I had to go through and dealing with on a personal note is being prepared. Not being prepared, but just understanding that things happen and how to rebuild from that, right? And
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway was to kind of take a step back and allow myself to regroup, right? And kind of go through the emotions of feeling, of not, understanding and saying, okay, this is where I'm at currently. This is where I have, what I'm trying to want to accomplish or want to move forward with. But I had to really reset and kind of like take a step back. And I think it's so
So,
important when you go through those process or when you go through that or those, obstacles of that is taking that step back
so the
and
first thing is take
refocusing.
a step back, take back and refocus.
Yeah, process those emotions, feel those emotions. It's so important. I think sometimes we don't feel those and we kind of go back into, oh my gosh, I have to go back into it. I got to do it. I got to be consistent. I want to stay relevant. And in the sense is no, when you have been, when you're going through those obstacles of being laid off or, in that sense and change, I think it's very important for
Mm.
you to process, it's almost like you're losing something. So you got to grieve a little bit and elaborate on the sense to where you're like, okay, I need that time off. I need to sit there and give myself some time. And I need to rethink my plan and where I want to move and go next.
And grieving is an important note that most people don't realize that we go through when we lose something or lose a job, that you grieve, that you through some
Yeah.
grieving process. And so there might be some stages of grief that you need to through, or not power through, but bring yourself back from, so
Hmm.
that you can pick yourself back up and get out there.
Yeah, I think everyone goes through that one time or another in their career. I think any obstacles or biggest challenges that has to make you take a step back from where you're trying to proceed towards your goals. And in that lieu of that, as well as, being, laid off and overcoming that biggest challenge and what to do, how to guide yourself. And I think if you don't allow yourself to really feel the emotions of it, but also when you're feeling those emotions, is making sure that you refrain from going into the negative side of it, right?
Yeah.
And making it more of that positive light, like, okay, this is my outcome. This is what I need to kind of work towards. And you may not have the answers, and that's okay. I didn't have the answers. I didn't know right off the bat, but I knew that there was other passions that I wanted to fulfill and things that I wanted to do. And at that time, it was one of those new plan devise and refocusing in that time of I took it off to say, this is how I'm going to move forward and do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is definitely something that you have to step back and reset yourself and not let yourself to the downward spiral of depression, because that can happen when you get laid off or have to change jobs, something like that, because you're now change. Nobody likes change. We all get vexed over change, and it's human nature. And if you don't catch from going into that wormhole of despair, is what I like to call it, you know you could very well become depressed. So what do you what's some that you do to keep your that you kept yourself motivated and to get yourself there?
Well, I had to focus on the positives, right? And knowing
Uh-huh.
that, okay, how am I going to sit there and reevaluate where I'm at and be able to do new things? Well, I know I love to speak. I was always speaking in the sense and training and facilitating. So how could I take this and make it bigger? Well, that was recreating myself. And so it kind of gave me that new incentive towards myself to be very motivated and passionate with it and kind of start outlining new goals. That it was allowing the time for me to be focused with my family, time to really sit back and journal about new plans of actions and how I want to see that, whether that was getting back into, another position within another company or just saying, okay, I'm going to try something different. And how does that look like? And Lacey, with my vision board plans, how do I kind of put that all together to kind of make that happen? And taking it one day at a time. I think that was one of my biggest lessons and still till today, as making sure I understand to take one day at a time to be present in that moment. But just if you accomplish one thing, doing it within that day and saying, okay, I did it. Now let me move forward with that. And I think if you're
Yeah.
really realistic with that and knowing that and being open to that, then I think you'll be able to kind of walk through those hurdles because it's never easy. But it's also me having to be very strong in a mindset of being positive and not allowing myself to go back and saying, man, am I going to be able to do this? Or can I get this opportunity? Or is this going to happen? And don't go into that thinking tunnel. I
Yeah.
say,
Yeah. Yeah.
keep
Good.
it positive.
Yeah, good self. I did find that good self talk, giving my own pep talks and surrounding myself with others that would also lift is something that I have to be very mindful. Good self talk is super important when you're you from going on that downward spiral, because
Hmm.
things happen when when people get laid off, especially when companies get bought. You don't have control
Yeah.
over things, right? Like I had to learn when CTM was purchased, like there when you no longer have control of, you gotta let go and let God, and have
Hmm.
patience with whatever those outcomes be, and not
Yeah.
be hard. I had to find not being hard on myself, because I definitely went through a bit of bout of depression when that happened. So
Yeah.
how did you keep your did you like what on your in your daily life did you do differently?
I think you got to allow first, kind of coming back to that and circle back around what you had said, I think is really important is you have to allow yourself grace, right, in that moment and not put so much pressure of trying to get something in the next time frame or quickly,
Yeah.
right? Give yourself
Yeah.
time. But with me, what I did was constantly journal, constantly writing, constantly visioning out things that I loved that I could, start doing, whether that was reading more, whether that was learning something new, whether that was designing something new, whether it was
Hmm.
branding something, whatever that was in that mist. And I started doing my daily inspiration videos, which kind of kept me going. I've been doing them, but now I was like really active with it. But it was
Hmm.
it was me walking through whatever I was going through to help someone else. So then I found that to be more motivating within myself, but also listen to podcasts. I always,
Yeah.
something that kind of like really cling to your spirit and your soul, right? They kind of keep you going every single day to continue to keep that mindset, that positive mindset, because it's easy to go and navigate different. And so with that is constantly doing that and surrounding myself and having that positive, circle of people around you, your support system. I
Yeah.
always call them my pit crew
Yeah.
to kind of keep me thriving.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you have
So
to. You have to be your biggest cheerleader at the same time. that you're picking yourself back up. And I found that when I would get up and attack the day like it was, and I would set like I was real big about scheduling virtual coffees, or well, now it's virtual coffees, but back then it was grabbing a coffee one, or midday breakfast, midday coffee, whatever. But now you can do virtual coffees. You have
Yeah.
Zooms with people, and just reconnecting with your network, I found was cool.
Yeah, it is very helpful. But then they also can give you the inspiration and encouragement that you're needing, right? To let you know
Mhm.
that, just because something like this happened within your journey of your career path doesn't mean you're still able to get back up and recreate something completely brand new. And that's
Yeah.
why I think there's not just a one set blueprint of that. I think there is um it's really up to that person, right? It's up to what that person want to foreshadow or what they see. There's no set rules. It's really something to where you can come in and you can say, you know what, I want to try this today and I want to work towards this. And how do I go about doing that? And
Yeah.
finding that inspiration to move forward and continue on your career path. And you just never know. And I think with that mindset, when me continuously doing that is where I've ended up today, is continuously building that new blueprint of myself as a speaker and in my career path, in my journey, as taking those steps out and doing something new and enjoying it. And and
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers. I don't think anyone really have all the answers. I think that's the
No.
beauty of it. It's growth, and
Yeah.
you're continue learning every single day. I saw somewhere where it was on Instagram, which I thought was really cool. It kind of like hit home in that sense of it said from womanhood, failure is feedback. And I'm like, you learn from it, right? You have to
Mhm.
adapt to it and you keep moving forward. And so
Yeah.
I think, in any sense, and I'm not saying you being laid off is failure, but if you had any failures or obstacles in your career path or in your life, personal or career,
Yeah.
those are just learning experiences to be able to start and adapt to something new and even better. And and take those as sometimes as great strides.
Yeah. I dove into, once after CTM sold, I dove into teaching myself how to podcast. I wanted to
Hmm.
do something different. I didn't want to, like go, I wasn't going to go start another video production company, because I've always said see the best. I'm not going to now say, oh, but I've changed my mind coming by video for me. So I wanted podcasting, and podcasting was
Yeah.
a different skill set. And so I followed I could about podcasting. Gary Vee was a big component. He taught me everything I know, and because he's super transparent about what he does and how he does it,
Uh-huh.
it went from podcasting. I had podcast for almost a year, two of them, and then when the pandemic hit, I moved to doing live. I
Yeah.
realized that's how I got into doing live, and it was just trial and error around it. And more and more people started reaching out to me about having to do lives, and it just was something that I'm passionate about. So you can find passions in other things by breaking out
Yeah.
that like and journaling.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone has certain things that they can dive into and be like, this is what I love. So I always say, don't allow that setback to really be something that you hold on to. Instead,
Yeah,
allow that setback to be something that you can build into. And it could be something that's even better that you didn't even realize,
yeah,
or, that one closed door can open to something that's even truly amazing down the line. And
oh,
it's an
definitely.
opportunity to really reevaluate and grow within yourself and what areas that you want to. I mean, I'm telling you, it kind of made me kind of stretch my brain cells out there a little bit when it comes to like just personally branding and putting yourself
Mhm.
out there for the world to either to like you or not, and get an understanding that when you put yourself out there and being relevant and creating new material and building out programs and still being passionate about it every single day, that's the importance of it. So that's the overall ending goal that you're working towards, is the
Yeah,
excitement of what you're building, at
yeah,
the end of the day.
yeah. And getting excited again, staying motivated. I don't know about you, but well, I mean, I'm pretty sure we've definitely offline talked about different podcasts that we listen to.
Yeah.
Everything. Jay Shetty has that, like, it. Mostly focuses on staying positive. On is his fastest growing podcast, but Mel Robbins is another one that brings professionals. You can find anything and everything under Mel Robbins's,
I
topic.
follow her. She's
Yeah.
amazing. It was one of those inspirations to myself is her and the realness of it. And I think that's
Yeah.
what it is. People want to see realness and true authenticity when it comes to, yeah, okay, I had a hurdle. I've gone through that. I've been in this industry and I worked really hard and I didn't see what, occurred and I was laid off. Where do I do next with my life? And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's like, don't give up. Just sit there and take a time out to reset, like we said earlier, and process those emotions. Surround yourself with positive people, right? It's that positive light at the end of the day of saying, okay, I can now regroup, replan, and then focus on what that is next. And
Yeah.
and give yourself grace of that. But yeah, I also listen to Daily Boost too. That's another great
Okay.
motivation podcast as well.
It depends on what, but any it goes anywhere from Jay Shetty, the more mild side, to Gary V. If I'm in business beast mode, I listen to these podcasts about whatever, because he has a lot of he's about positive, you know positivity, period. So,
Uh-huh.
but he gives great business advice, so find just about
Yeah.
anything on so many different topics. But I found that any one of these podcasts would inspire me. I would listen to it, take notes, you know and that was my journaling basically, and I'd go back and try to connect the dots in that way
Mm-hmm.
to get me motivated, and even scheduling them in my day, if I needed to, so that I stayed on some sort of routine. Because would you not say that when you're going through transition is really important?
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's those check and balances every single day to like your action plans, and knowing that, okay, I can check off this today or I did this today. And even if it's just one thing, maybe it's just I created a new set of goals today. It's
Yeah,
just that it's just staying consistent. It's the smallest little consistency steps that continues to grow over time.
yeah,
With that, when you're redeveloping your new blueprint of that, or networking, I think that's very important as
huge.
well, as making sure you stay connected. Like don't after you kind
Retreat.
of retreat, yeah, come back and network with people in the industry, and develop those connections, and continue to reach out, because just because you had one door that closed, that doesn't mean there's other great opportunities that's going to open up along the way,
Yeah,
with that. And I think that's the mentality you have to have, but that's also continue to keep that healthy mindset as well. And then
yeah.
reflect on your skills, right? Your strengths,
Hmm.
right? And areas that you can bring to whatever you're trying to accomplish in your next role, or your next, next vision of whatever you want to be successful in, right? I
Yeah,
guess. But just,
whatever the next. Yeah,
big thing is for you, making sure you write out those strengths to see that at the same time.
yeah, writing down and putting positive. I definitely put a lot of affirmations up around me. I'm real big about my own self-talk, making sure, because I used to be very negative self-talk, so I'm
Hmm.
super mindful about when if I'm in a negative mood, that I don't let my self-talk start to become. I overcompensate, even, so that my
Yeah.
self-talk is better, so that I can stay motivated, because it's hard when, I've known people that, knock on wood, I've not been laid off for a long period of time, but I've known people that like months and months and months, that are looking for a job. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's you
It's
know
very hard.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's only something that you have to adjust. You have to
Hmm.
mourn, grieve, and just build yourself back, pick yourself back up. It's definitely one of those
Hmm.
challenges. But if you have good people, you have good self-talk, good people around you, talk, you do all these things that you're mentioning, from networking. Networking is huge. Like, especially with LinkedIn, people didn't realize back in 2017 that LinkedIn were more than just finding a job, and that there is so much on the fastest growing social media sites, and it's all about the education. So even taking
Hmm.
continuing courses, you can take continuing
Yeah.
courses on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, I think you should always continuously try to grow, right, and learn new things. That's how you kind of strengthen your skill set as well. But it also give you that opportunity to connect with other people or new people that you haven't before,
Yeah,
and broaden that in whatever what you're trying to work towards on your next goals or your next aspirations from
yeah,
that. So definitely agree with you.
yeah. And when you're on the tip, if you know, a friend of mine says rejection is God's protection. So if you look at it that way, and you're on the tip of, you know, that you got fired or let go, you know, maybe there's something that you've been wanting to learn and you've been wanting to
Mhm.
do. You can use that time to teach yourself. You know, you can learn anything you want on YouTube, and you can get all kinds of continuing education on LinkedIn. So you
Yeah,
can use that time to learn those things, you
you
know,
know,
from everything.
yeah, that is so true. And I think, of every setback that I may have had within my career and in my growth and in my journey, I always had to come back and reevaluate where that setback was and continue to rebuild and continue to now allow myself to be limited or set myself in a certain zone, right? I always had to
Yeah,
step out of my comfort zone to be able to grow and be better. And I think that's the purpose of it, right? Is making sure that you don't limit yourself, but also don't keep yourself contained. There's so many possibilities out there that you can grow and develop and become, or possibilities, right? At the end of
yeah.
the
Say
day. And I
yes to more things, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yes to
Yeah,
more. And I love how you say that, the no's are always the redirection, right? For that one yes. And
mhm,
keeping that in your mindset too as well. And as you're kind of continue on your career path. Because there's no career journey or personal journey in that sense that's ever going to be flatline. And you don't want that. You want it to be, you learn from every single one, and it
mhm.
continues to help you grow. And at least from my perspective, it has with me. Every single thing that I had to rebuild and regrow, it's helped me. It's almost like I said, it's like you're unlearning to learn, right? You're
Mhm.
unlearning every single situation is helping you get to that next better place.
Yeah, definitely. There's always some learning in any experience, whether it's good or
Hmm.
bad. And if you approach it in that way, you approach this bad experience as it more about it being a learning experience, definitely is a lot more on the positive side and keeps you
Yeah.
motivated to keep on going, because that's what you need, a lot of energy to keep going when you're in that negative. I mean, it's true. You know,
Yeah.
it takes all kinds of creative, it takes from vision, like breaking out the vision boards, like you said earlier, you
Hmm.
know, and journaling, because there's power in that, in your
Yeah.
thoughts. So you should
Journaling, vision boards, writing, anything, even from pulling yourself away from the situation and
yeah,
reevaluating, even getting feedback from your friends or your family, your support
yeah,
system,
feedback, yeah,
and kind of really sitting there and thinking about what can you do, and but never stopping, just taking a pause to regroup, but then continue to go back and being very motivated about something of a newer outcome or something
yeah.
else that in the meantime with what your purpose is.
Pause is key. The pause is okay, and taking a moment to sit still is definitely needed. You you can see a lot when you sit still for a moment, or for longer,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I tell you, I sit still a lot, and I have sat there in my thoughts of kind of going in circle, like, all right, how am I going to do this? Because, like I said, I'm still in that process of developing and
Yeah,
really and building. And I think sometimes it's really, it's cool to be in a place to where you can kind of like pull back and stop and say, all right, this is what I really love. How can I kind of make this happen? What is it going to be to make this happen? How do I got to put certain actions in place to get to where I want to make this happen? And
yeah,
still in the same time walk through it and be very positive with even because you got challenges even with that and
yeah,
overcoming that. But I think really what keeps me grounded is, my consistent faith in the process, but also knowing that it's something I love. And when you love it and you have the passion for it, then you're going to continue to walk towards that. And I think that's like changing that whole thought process from a
yeah,
negative outcome to making it a positive outcome.
yeah, yeah. Finding what you love and or doing that alongside of what you have to do. If you have to
Yeah.
get another job in the tech, that's what you have to do. Maybe doing something else on your off time that is something that you love will inspire. I definitely have found
Mhm.
that when I picked up podcasts, I wasn't in a hurry to run and get another job, so I picked up a bunch of consulting gigs, and in the I also did podcasting because it was my passion, to learn about
Mhm.
people, uh, um, to learn how to do it better, to do it easier, how to, because I was a one person, so, as far as the back end, but having guests on and everything, like I got so many new people, I got to network, it was going on, that's the other thing. If you're often in time, go on podcasts, or people are always looking for guests. And if you just reach out to people and ask them to be a guest, 9 times out of 10 they say yes. 100 times out of 10 I think they say yes, because you just, everybody's opinion is different, everybody's
Yeah.
perspective, so you can learn, and people are looking for guests. Every podcast is
Yeah.
always looking for guests. So that is something that I encourage people, if they do find themselves in that that period, or that event of being laid off,
Yeah.
that they stay, motivated, and that they get out of their comfort zone. That would definitely be getting out of
Mhm.
your comfort zone, right?
Very much, very much. I always say these lives are getting out of my comfort zone.
But you're doing
But I
so well.
but but at the end of the day, but that's the growth side of it.
Yeah.
And I think we have to really make sure that we are staying focused on whatever that what your vision is, when you do those vision boards and you reset and you kind of rebuild back from where you're at, and knowing that if you keep focused and knowing where what you're trying to accomplish each day, and remember being present in that moment, then things will start to come slowly, right? But
Yeah. You
it's
have to be
it, it
patient.
you have to be patient at the same time, and I think
Yeah.
that's in lieu of motivation. But find out, at that time, take some time for yourself too. That's the most important, is your health and your mental state when you go through that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Going on walk, or just taking exercise time, runs, whatever you can keep, physically, the oxygen getting to the brain is super important.
Yeah. Practice that self compassion, because at the end of the day, things happen that is uncontrollable. So practice the grace, the self compassion, and knowing that whatever you're trying to do next, you can do it. It's just focusing back on keeping in the game, networking, staying motivated, keeping the positive mindset, and surrounding
Mhm.
yourself with people that can continue to be that encourager. Because at the end of the day, it's not your fault. And I think sometimes we have that self blame on
Mhm.
ourselves. And I
Yeah.
think I had to go through that. I went through that, through time frame, and then realizing, no, that's not it. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
what your strengths are and what you can work towards.
Yeah. And that's part of your grief too, to take
Hmm.
the blame. So you got to get over that. You got to get out of that frame of mind. But yeah, those are all great ways. You definitely recapped our conversation well. If there are, I want to love everyone's time and your time, and so we're getting on that 30 mark. We did have a little technical difficulties with LinkedIn right now, so I might be just sharing our YouTube video LinkedIn today, because LinkedIn decided it did not want to show up. I don't know what's going on, but it's going to roll with it. So is there any other departing thoughts, Lissy, that you?
No, I just want to, stay focused, right? At the end of the day, life journey struggles is never easy, but I think if we kind of start doing the inner work with ourselves and realize that we can still get out there and make something new, we got this at
Great
the end of the
advice.
day.
How can people connect with you if they want to learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I have a podcast, Thriving in Multifamily, that is the Multifamily Media Network, that you can connect. But you also can connect on my handles on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can shoot me an email. Love to chat. I always love being on here and just chatting about life.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And for the who, if you catch this and you want to be a guest, if we're happy to have you, we just send email Kimberly at marketingdoer.com. If you watch us on the replay, make sure, or you can go to Google if you want to watch any of the episodes and put hashtag that Kimberly, or industry live, and all everywhere we are will show up. as well as link will lead you to some resources, as well as however you want to connect. So until next Tuesday, have a great one. Bye, Lissy.
Bye, everyone.